Hello and welcome to today's session. I hope you're all doing amazingly well from whichever part of the world you are watching. It has been one amazing ride this week. We're on day 4 of From Land to Legacy, and I have thoroughly enjoyed speaking to my collaborators, interviewing them, interviewing Corey, my client, and seeing his journey from having that dream, that place when we met, when he had that dream, that piece of land, to then going to be able to clearly articulate his vision, not only feel it, but clearly articulate it, and then start building with the energy of the land and having his own regenerative tourism plan that meant something to him instead of following another trend or seeing what other people are doing, something that he truly wanted. And today we'll look at how to get the funding for this impact driven project. So it's been incredibly, I'd say, invigorating, this experience, and just kind of a reminder that this is why I do what I do. There is a lot of pleasure in the madness in putting the word out there and now creating an event that is for a very select few, for a very niche market. You are that owner of a land. You have a piece of land and you know you want to do something meaningful with that land, and you will do it no matter what. So today I wanted to talk about the valley between the dream of having that retreat and the doing, and what no one talks about, what it takes to build that legacy. So 4 days in, you're probably now realizing that I understand, creating what I want to create, to have the impact I want to have with my retreat, with the legacy I want to craft. I'm going to need more than just the land, more than the purpose, more than the drive. Because the reality is, it takes more than that. It takes a new identity. So you're no longer the land owner. You are now the decision maker. The moment you decided to embark on this mission, you are converting into a leader who's going to have to get many people on board to take your concept past the finish line. And I think in a day and age where we're so obsessed with return on investment, in profit, in getting the profitability, doing things quickly and getting that return on investment quick, we kind of lose track of the fact that in order to produce those results, we actually have to become the person who can produce those results. And this is not me getting more woo on you. It is me getting highly practical and real, that new identity is needed. What's also needed is a new level of commitment, especially when things aren't working yet. And I have talked about this on a number of occasions about the emotional cycle of change. So when you're starting any new venture, we are up here on Mount Stupid. Everything is amazing and everything is possible. And our idea is the best idea. It's the cat's meow, the dog's bollocks. No one does something better than us. And then when we actually start to implement our vision, we enter into the valley of despair. And that is when we start to see that things aren't quite how we expected it, that we say something and we don't get the results we want, or we try something and it doesn't turn out the way we hoped. And then you do get into that river of misery because you're embarking on a mission that you have never done before. And the truth is, not many people have done it either. Traditional hospitality has been done for a very long time, and they've dialed it in. It's a very well oiled operational machine, and it works for big brands, for large hotels, but it doesn't work for the purpose led landowner who only wants to build around 30 to 40 keys on their piece of land. Because this is your legacy. And things don't usually turn out the way we expect. And that is the truth. No matter how ninja your team is, there will always be things that don't turn out the way you expected them to. So when you want to build your legacy, not only is a new identity required, but an entirely new level of commitment is required. Because when things aren't going well, you still need to keep forward, and you still need to keep your team and everyone around you very bought into your project. And lastly, what is required is a new kind of support. You can't build something that has not been built before using conventional consultants, experts, advisors, particularly those who don't know how to hold your vision. So that is why throughout From Land to Legacy, I have talked a lot about clarity of vision. You as the owner of the land, you as the creator of the legacy you want to leave behind, you need to be crystal clear about your vision, because only you can take it past the finish line. Now, I'm not suggesting you have to do it on alone, not at all. But the only way you get people on board is to ensure that you have that clarity of vision. And then you need that new identity, that person who's leading something very unique. You need an entirely new level of commitment, and you need a new kind of support system. Because you can't have traditional people showing you the way for something that only you have the playbook to. So today I wanted to talk about being in that valley of despair. So that valley between the dream and the doing, and what is involved in this valley, and how you can actually get in to that valley of hope, swimming past that and swimming through rather the river of misery, how you get to that valley of hope. So I wanted to talk about 5 particular things that I see happen when we are in this valley. So that valley of despair. So it's between your dream and the doing. We first have what we call the emotional whiplash after the inspiration. So most landowners I see think that, okay, once I have clarity, this will bring momentum. And that is true. But clarity also brings fear. Suddenly, the someday dream becomes real, and you have to choose. And you can't hide behind the fog or the cloud or the lack of clarity anymore. So once you have that clarity, yes, it brings momentum, but it also suddenly brings that fear. And you as the landowner have to know how to manage the momentum and the fear that comes. And that emotional whiplash, so to speak, after the inspiration is very normal. And once you know that that is what's going to happen, I find it's a lot easier to navigate through this emotional whiplash. Then, once you've actually navigated through that emotional whiplash, you enter into the moment you realize that you are the asset. You, as the owner, are the asset. So you're not just building a wellness retreat, you're building yourself into the kind of person who can lead it. And that shift from owner to operator of your retreat, or from landowner to legacy leader, is where most projects stall. So even if you've made it past that emotional whiplash between that momentum and the fear that comes along, the next step is realizing that you have to become that asset. And sometimes that realization becomes incredibly overwhelming. And that's where landowners are at the risk of folding under pressure, the risk of letting go of their vision because things aren't quite turning out the way they expected. And instead of going back to the drawing board, instead of trying to identify where are things not working out and why, it's so tempted to say, this is not working. Adopting that all or nothing or the black and white approach, that this is not working, let's give in, let's do something else instead. And that is when we see amazing wellness retreats in the making turn into a very different product because they're taking a very different trajectory to what they initially thought. And the reason many beautiful retreats, even once they have been built, the reason they fail, and I've said this on a number of occasions, is not only about the lack of funding. And it's not that something is not being designed quite right, or you're in the wrong market or the wrong niche. It is the lack of inner and operational readiness. Most people end up building what they think others want, or they copy, or they burn out trying to do it all by themselves. So we see that tricky moment where you've gone through the emotional whiplash and you're getting into that second phase. You realize that you need to become the asset, holding true to your vision, even when things aren't working out, and even when your team of consultants is probably telling you to go in a different direction. And I'm not saying gratuitously stick to your vision if you know something's not right, but sometimes things aren't quite working out, but we don't know why. But we definitely know that we're on that right track. And the ability to hold your team together through the uncertainty when they think something else needs to be done, while you think A needs to be done, though A is not quite working out. That requires a lot of strength of character. That requires you to be that decision maker of the vision you want. And if you fold, that is when your retreat will eventually fail. And it's not due to funding. It's not due to the design or not having the right people or the right market or the right niche. It's because you haven't been ready to be steadfast enough, that discipline of focus with your vision. And you've gone and done what you think others want you to do, or you've copied without or drew inspiration from another retreat and thought that that is what's going to make you money at the end, or that is what's going to give you the success you're looking for, or that is what you should be doing. And the next stage, if you actually do get past this, if you maintain that discipline of focus, the next stage is to focus on the difference between noise and strategy. So you don't need another concept of longevity, well-being, biohacking, cryotherapy, whatever is new out there. What you need is a framework that helps you filter every decision through your purpose, the land, and the legacy. Because here's the truth. Our industries are growing so quickly. They're evolving so quickly that by the time you open doors, what is on trend today will be long out of trend or maybe even obsolete in some cases in a few years' time when you open your doors. I am not advocating for us not to be aware of trends and to be aware of what's out there. It would be irresponsible not to know what's out in the market and to evolve with times. What I'm saying is not to build your project based on trends. Once you have cleared your vision, once you're clear on your strategy, what I'm saying is stick to your strategy. Because the harsh truth is that no strategy is going to hit it out of the park the first time round. You will not hit jackpot the first time round. It will take iteration. And iteration is part of the process. And it doesn't mean throw the whole thing out. It means to go back and do the hard thing. And the hard thing is to sit and say, okay, why isn't this working? Where along this journey are we dropping the ball and not realizing it? Or what are we not seeing? And that is so important. That is the difference between noise and strategy. Just listening to whatever trendy thing is out there in the market and instead saying, this is where I'm headed. And you will always be able to add more tools into your toolbox as your business matures. But when you're starting, it's very, very important to stick to your vision and the strategy that you set yourself to follow. It doesn't mean you don't evolve. It doesn't mean you don't edit. It doesn't mean you don't tweak things. It just means when you are tweaking things, you're tweaking things according to your strategy, according to the end destination that you have in mind. And lastly, how you get out of that valley of despair. And I have created the Asset Builder Mentorship Program specifically for landowners who are ready to actually take the next step. They're ready to stop circling. They're ready to stop wasting funds and to instead invest them on gaining that clarity, getting the right people on board, and putting all chips in, as Corey says, to get your concept past the finish line, to get the right support when you need it. So I hope for those of you who've been following me with From Land to Legacy, that those 5 days have helped give a glimpse into what it really takes to create that legacy you want to create. And I thought I'd use Corey's example to show you what's possible. That someone with a business background, with deep knowledge, but not millions and millions in the bank account, can actually build the retreat and make the impact they want. And you can also do it the right way. And when I say the right way, I mean get the right teams on board, get the right people on board. Because once you're clear with your vision and you have adopted that new identity, in other words, the decision maker, you're ultimately making decisions, more no's than yes, when you're clear about your vision. Then you get into a completely new level of commitment to being true to your vision and keeping the noise out. And lastly, getting the right kind of support that fits your vision, because you are the leader of that project. You're the leader of your mission. You're the leader of the legacy you want to create. And that is what helps you create that wellness asset. When I wrote the book, The Wellness Asset, you know you have a wellness asset when you're attracting and retaining proud people. So you have a team of proud people. And I very intentionally use the word proud because happy teams, we all want our teams to be happy. But pride shows dedication, shows love, shows commitment. That is what you want from your teams. And the only way you do that is becoming the leader they want to follow. Having a wellness asset also means delivering your guests transformative experiences. They don't need to be otherworldly, or you don't need a team of super ninjas to transform people's lives. Sometimes just offering them that quiet space to read the book they've always wanted to read, or walk alongside that beach, or just learn how to breathe, or just stop and eat mindfully. That can completely change the trajectory of your guests. And for that, you don't need biohacking, you don't need longevity, you don't need cryotherapy chambers. I'm just using this as examples. I'm not using them to say they're not good to have. They're very important. I think they're fantastic pieces of equipment. But what I'm trying to say is, if you want to deliver this transformative experiences, you don't need the bling. And lastly, a wellness asset is also commercially sustainable. I come from a finance background. In my past life, I've been 25 years in this industry now. In my past life, I was in Goldman Sachs in the City of London. So business has always been an important part of how I work with my clients. I think if we cannot make our businesses commercially sustainable, then we're actually irresponsible. That's actually passing on a burden as a legacy instead of something that regenerates, instead of something that can have an impact. So creating that wellness asset means attracting and retaining proud people, people whose values resonate with yours, people who are willing to stay with you 20, 30 years. They're willing to grow with you because they feel aligned with your impact, your mission. And it aligns with their impact, their mission, their why. And you want to transform your guests' lives. If you are in this business, particularly wellness and hospitality, you have immense power to transform people's lives. Immense power. But just doing very simple things. But the intention needs to be there. And lastly, you are in an industry that, yes, it's complex. It's not easy. It's not for the faint-hearted. But these are businesses that can be incredibly lucrative. And the more commercially sustainable your business is, the more impact you can have on your community, the environment, and future generations. So that is why I've created From Land to Legacy. this 5-day event to help those landowners who want to make a real impact, who are ready to embark on this mission. I wanted to give you that roadmap so you can see Corey's journey, to see if some part of his journey resonates with yours, and to show you that it is possible to make the impact. You don't need to be superhuman. You don't need deep pockets. You don't need to be a wellness ninja. You don't even need to be a hospitality ninja. You just need to be clear about your vision, that new identity. You're going to have to make lots of decisions. And you're going to have to adopt an entirely new level of commitment, because many things won't turn out the way you expect them to. But they all do turn out right at the end. And lastly, you need the right kind of support. You can't do it solo. Because if you do, by the time you realize you've gone too far into debt, too far into expenses to make that turn back. So I hope you continue to enjoy the event. We've got one more event, and tomorrow we will close with Corey's story on what these last 4 years have been like for him. And on that note, I wish you all a beautiful day ahead. Take care now.